What's up, everybody? Welcome to Breaking Bats, presented by Not For Long Media. I'm Brian O'Grady, and with me is my co-host, Justin Ayers. I'm coming from you on Tuesday, the 15th. It's 6:15 a.m. here in Japan. So it is nighttime on Monday, the 14th in the old USA. A lot of stuff starting to happen here. Free agency, trades. We'll touch on that real quick. But before we get to that, JA, what's going on, brother?
I'm great, man. We were just talking about, all of these great photos and videos are coming out from your side. You're putting so many great videos out, just like practicing, hitting. The people are loving it. It looks like you're getting some good hacks in over there in Japan. I wanted to start with that. Just like, how's everything going? Your swing looks amazing, but just like take us through everything that's been going on the last couple of days.
Everything's going really well. I've only played in one game the other day, the minor league game. I DH'd. It was a good day for me. I went 2 for 3. First at bat, double off the wall in center field, so that felt good. All the guys there were excited for me, so it was cool to get my first hit out of the way. But I'm definitely happy, slightly surprised of how good I feel. Usually it's not that quick, for first seeing live pitching again is usually an adjustment, but I feel good in there. So I'm happy. I did put a lot of work in the offseason and made some adjustments. So right now they're working, but the thing with baseball is, it's never easy. You gotta stay humble and know that some tough at bats are always going to be coming, but everything's good here. I'm playing center field in a game later today in the minor league side. So I'll play game today on the minor league side. I believe practice tomorrow, and then another minor league game after that on the 17th to try to slowly build up. And then on the 18th, I believe, will be my first big league game. They want me to take it slow, not push it so that I don't get hurt. Because I guess there was a problem with that last year and the year before with COVID stuff, guys trying to rush and play and getting hurt. And I think Eric Thames ruptured his Achilles. So they don't want things like that to happen. So I'm doing my best to pace myself and not, just go out there and do what I normally do. But everything's going well. I'm having fun.
Any big differences you've noticed between the MLB game and the NPB game and the limited experience you have so far? Like, isn't the baseball itself a little bit different?
Yeah, baseball's a little bit different. It's definitely a little stickier naturally. So the pitchers would probably like it. I think it's slightly smaller, like very slightly smaller. In terms of pitching, these pitchers here they all throw like 6 pitches. They all throw forkballs, splitters are big here, and they're good. So that's the one big adjustment. The velocity so far and in general is not as good as it is in the United States, but they're more, they try to hit their spots. They try to pitch more. But then there's, guys who have velocity and have some of the other stuff too. The strike zone slightly bigger than the United States. So that's one thing that I'm going to have to get used to a little bit. There's already been the first pitch in my first at bat in that game was about 5 inches off the plate outside, and he called it a strike. And I was like, I'm gonna have to get used to that one. I'm gonna have to start swinging at that. But
well, I mean, I've seen some umpires here that have a 6 inch off the outside edge as a strike, so it could just be like normal.
Yeah, some of them, but it is what it is. That's an adjustment I'll have to make, and that's fine. And then it's just more contact oriented here. They just guys really don't strike out very much here. They just put the ball in play, they tap it somewhere, they do things like that. So it's still, I said this, we had our press conference yesterday. It's still baseball. It's it's all the same dimensions, everything's the same. Still got to throw the ball at the plate. So it is baseball, but slight differences for sure.
Glad to hear things are coming around. So opening day is March 25th, right?
25th. Yep.
All right. So yeah, we're coming up on that slowly but surely. I think I figured out how to watch Japanese games, the Pacific League TV. I think I think I figured
Yep.
that out the other day. So I put my credit card in there, but yeah, I'm excited, man.
Nice.
I'm definitely going to wake up at like 3 a.m. my time to come watch, to turn on the game and watch it hit. So that'll be fun tracking that the entire season. Well, cool. Do you want to shift into some of the, the bigger off-season moves that we've had so far?
Yeah, definitely. We've had some interesting ones to start. I guess Sunday and Monday for you, Monday and Tuesday for me. Go ahead.
Yeah. So in the American baseball game, the New York Yankees been very active. They acquired Josh Donaldson and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Kiner-Falefa was a twin for 24 hours, which I always love. That's the funniest thing ever. They acquired them and also a young catcher named Ben Workvet for Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. So the Yankees are wheeling and dealing. They got Josh Donaldson to man the hot corner. Kiner-Falefa is Derek Jeter 2.0 now, apparently. But when you saw that news hit the wire, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
Seeing that, the two things for me were more that they got rid of Gary Sanchez, traded him finally after all the speculation and kind of the ups and downs of the people, the fans' reaction to him in New York. Obviously, very talented dude. Has struggled some, and also has played really well too. So for him to finally get out of there, and I was kind of surprised by Urshela that he was in that deal too. I think he's a pretty good player. I think he's just solid, very good defender, pretty good hitter. Just really gets it done. But I more than anything for me, I'm like trying to figure out what the Twins are doing. I guess I don't. They traded for Sonny Gray too in a separate trade from the Reds, but it was even like when they traded for Kiner-Falefa originally for those 24 hours. I don't like. Are they kind of going for it? They're trying to put together a better team. They were very young and all that last year, but getting Donaldson off the books, all the money they owed him, I'm sure was a big sticking point for that deal. But they get back, Urshela and Sanchez, and it's just kind of like, where's this heading?
There's a lot of these kind of like baseball trades where like it's a lot of guys straight up, like not a lot of prospects being involved. But you're right, the Twins are kind of in that weird like treading water, middle of the road kind of thing. But I think a big theme we're going to see this year in baseball is just like with the extra playoff spot, we're going to see a lot of these kind of like 79 to 82 win teams, like trying to make the jump to get to that point, to get to the playoffs. Because I feel like, if you're sitting about 500, that's pretty, you can pretty much guarantee to get a wild card spot now with this expanded postseason. So I expect to see a lot more of these kind of like surprising teams jump up and make some more of these moves. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's definitely makes it more attainable. I'm glad it's not 14th, but
yep.
The extra two teams doesn't hurt.
The other big one that I saw come across the wire today was the Braves. Kind of a shocking move. They sent a package of 4 really good minor leaguers, including Christian Pache, to the Oakland A's from Matt Olson. This pretty much just puts the final nail in the coffin of the Braves are not getting Freddie Freeman back, which makes me sad because I like to see guys stick around with one team for their entire career. So the Freddie Freeman sweepstakes still ongoing, but Matt Olson, 39 bombs. I mean, that guy's a stud.
Yeah, this one's crazy to me. Freddie Freeman not being on the Braves is nuts. The Braves not re-signing Freddie Freeman, has been their guy, and he's just such a phenomenal hitter. I mean, he's just one of the best there is. I don't get it. Pay the guy. I'm sure that they could come to some sort of agreement because I'm sure that's probably where he really wanted to be. But yeah, Matt Olson's a great player too. I'm not going to say he's Freddie Freeman in my opinion, but he's definitely a really, really good hitter and will be a good replacement if Freddie is definitely not there. But it's just to let a franchise icon like that walk is definitely right after you win the World Series is just a little strange to me, but I guess we'll see how it plays out. And then, we might have to do a little separate mini episode here to talk about these big free agents and where they're landing this week.
Yes, we do need that. We need some more news to break here. The Carlos Correa sweepstakes is ongoing, the Chris Bryant sweepstakes, but I didn't know Matt Olson's a native Atlantean. He's ATL through and through, so he's going hometown reunion, which is kind of cool. Maybe that
It's
makes it a
awesome
little
for
easier
him.
for Braves fans to kind of rally for him. I think he's awesome anyway, but just like that going to kind of help build his his stock amongst Braves fans, knowing that he's a local guy. But yeah, one of the most underrated first basemen in baseball, Matt Olson. Glad he's finally leaving the cavernous O.Co Coliseum. That place. Have you played? Have you played in there?
No, but haven't heard good things about that place or Oakland A's in general
Yeah,
from guys who have experienced it.
that place is
So
huge. And then yeah, you're right. So there are a couple other things we wanted to hopefully get to the point where we can break some of this news. Is that the Japanese player Seiya Suzuki has yet to sign with a team, but he's kind of sniffing around a couple of different places. This guy's a stud, like 27 years old. He had like 38 homers in the Japanese league. I think he played with Hiroshima last year.
Hiroshima.
Yeah. Have you heard about him? Like, what do you know about him? Because he seems like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I just know that he was really good. Obviously, I mean, his numbers here, he hit over 300 with all those homers. I think him and maybe I can't remember the other guy's name, a guy from SoftBank. I think when I asked who were the best hitters, those were the answers last year. So I know the Padres are interested. They've been kind of linked to him for a while, but I know there's other teams that are interested as well. I did see that he hung out with Darvish
Did see that
this past weekend or something. I think they have the same agent. So, we'll see what happens with them. And then the final one I wanted to touch on real quick was it just broke right before we came on here was Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez to the Mariners, which is really big news.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are high average, like awesome hitters. And it just kind of seems like the Mariners are going all in, which makes me happy. Every baseball fan should be happy that the Mariners are like good again, because baseball is better when Seattle is like a baseball factory. But yeah, you're right. Winker and Suarez to the Mariners. And they got your guy Frazier too, right? Adam Frazier's there.
Yeah, Adam Frazier's there now too. They're a good team, man. But that obviously we got to see who's going back to Cincinnati. But Suarez had a rough year, I think, last year, and maybe the COVID year. But man, when I was, in 19, when I was there, he hit 50 homers. I mean, he's a really good hitter. So hopefully a little change of scenery will get him back to that kind of way. Phenomenal guy too. Just one of the best. And then Wink, man, another great dude and another just really coming into his own as a hitter. Last year just putting on a show. I mean, his power, he's always been able to hit, and the power has always been in there, but now it's really starting to come out. And man, that's a scary hitter at the plate, because that dude never lacks confidence. And I mean that in a good way. He is very confident in himself, and he can swing the bat. So, with what Seattle had going on last year, and you throw those guys in the mix, man, and Robbie Ray too, right? They signed Robbie Ray before the lockout. So that's
Got their Cy Young winner.
That's a team to be reckoned with out there for sure.
Yeah. People on the East Coast are going to have to stay up and watch more Mariners games. I was just checking out it's a prospect package. So there's no major league guys going back in return, but yeah, Winker and Suarez, two established vets. Yeah, look out, Seattle Mariners. I don't know what their win over under total is, but they're gonna be pretty good this year.
Yeah, especially if Correa leaves Houston, man, that's
and Olson's
that's
out of
gonna be
Oakland.
that's their division right there.
God, that's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, but like we said, maybe we'll hop on it and do a separate one and talk about that for all this stuff for a little bit longer. But let's this week, our guest. I know I've said this before, but this isn't it. Justin Suas is our guest this week, who is the Rays head of mental performance. And he is one of the nicest human beings and just will make you feel so good about yourself and about what you're doing. It's just unbelievable. This episode, when we did it, we got done and we were like, that was amazing. He's just so good. So it's a different kind of vibe in the episode. Obviously, we talk about more mental things and how he helps players and how it's about the process, how he's helped me personally. But I'm just really excited for people to hear this one and kind of get a different perspective of what goes on.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is so much more to the game than what just happens in between the lines. And a lot of it is in between the years, like dealing with struggles, like going through slumps, like how guys can, working with guys and help them through some of these struggles of playing a full 162 game gambit of a season. Like that stuff from my perspective, hearing all of that was fascinating. So I think this episode is really going to resonate with people. And I think people are really going to enjoy it.
Yeah, he's such a good talker too. Like he has his own podcast that he does every morning. Very short and to the point that people already love, but he's so good with his words and he just knows how to do it. So his story about the mental minute is my favorite one. And he never told me that story. So I heard it for the first time when we were interviewing him. So that one's definitely something people should listen for here. But with all that being said, let's just let him get to it. And here's our interview with Justin Suas on Breaking Bats. Today, we got a very special guest with us on Breaking Bats. He's currently the head of mental performance for the Tampa Bay Rays, which is how we met. He's previously worked with Boston Red Sox, Cleveland Browns, WWE, U.S. Army, pro golfers, Olympians, elite CrossFit athletes, and various corporations, just to name a few that we covered there, which is unbelievable. He hosts his own podcast called Increase Your Impact, which is absolutely fantastic. He's helped me immensely and still does. A great friend. Truly just one of the most genuine people out there. Justin Suas, thank you for coming on here, brother, man. How are you doing?
Doing awesome, brother. Thanks for having me. Really, really appreciate you having me. And thanks, Justin, as well. Nice to meet you. Excited to be here and have this conversation.
Yeah, man. I'm so excited to have you. When this came about, I've said it to Musgrove too, but you were another person that just popped in my head immediately. I'm like, I have to get Suas on here. So,
Awesome.
And I don't know if you could tell right behind me here, you made my wall.
Oh,
me
what?
and you.
I remember that day. I remember that day.
That's me and you at the AL championship trophy.
Bro, what a crazy experience that was. Just being in the bubble in San Diego, no fans. It was wild. It was wild.
It was something that not many people will hopefully ever experience, and it'll just be us
Right.
so we can talk about it. But yeah,
Right.
my mother-in-law and wife did this, so I came home. I was like, "Oh, Suas made it." So
That's cool. Oh, I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
But man, how's the family doing? You got an amazing family too. What's
Everyone's
going on?
good, thanks. Yeah, family is doing really well. My daughter Hollywood has shut down quite a bit because of the COVID thing. She'll probably be headed to Denmark to shoot her next movie in May. And my son, it's funny. My son is actually he's on his way to Miami to go do some music with some reggaetoneros down there in Miami. And so my wife is taking all the kids down there while he's in the studio and cooking up his new beats for his next artist. And so the kids are doing it. The kids are they're doing their thing.
Man, that's one of the most amazing parts. When you were telling me all that at the beginning, I'm like, wait a second, what? Like for everyone listening, his daughter Eliana is an actress. She's been in Hobbs and Shaw, right?
Yep.
She's been in other things too. And then his son Jarom is a producer. Was on Drake's last album, right?
Yep, that's it. Yeah. It's crazy to see. And what's amazing to me is just how young they are. And I think one of the things, and I mean, obviously there's a lot of factors and reasons, but for their success early in their life. But what's interesting, the question we always get is like, how are your kids able to do this? I have no connections to Hollywood. I don't know the music industry. If they wanted to get into baseball, then yeah, I know some people in pro sports, but the industry that they're in, I know nobody. But a phrase that we say in our house, especially when our kids were young, it's not what do you want to be when you grow up? It's what do you want to be right now? What do you want to do right now? Don't wait till you grow up. Do it now. And they took it to heart and they're rocking and rolling. And I will mention, we have 3 children, and our other daughter, she's unbelievable. She's amazing. She's going the academic route, which I'm very happy about. Trying to get the other 2 to go to do school is like pulling teeth. But yeah, we have 3 amazing kids, and yeah, I mean, nobody's perfect. They're not perfect. None of us are. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of the direction they're headed.
Yeah, we weren't going to forget about Maya. I was going to ask about her next.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I know she's
Maya's
great
awesome.
too. Yeah,
She really is. She really is.
that's so cool, dude. It really is. I love following Jarom on Instagram and just checking in on it's mind blowing to me. It still is. It's really cool. Who he did a walkout for somebody, right, in Tampa Bay?
So he was going to, but COVID knocked it. COVID threw it off. So yeah, he was making a couple of walkout songs for a few people, and yeah, COVID, we had no fans in the stands, and so they're like, okay, I better stick with what I've had, and so but yeah, he's one of his goals is to have his song play in stadiums that people can hear his music and recognize it, and I think it happened with his Drake track. But yeah, he's excited to keep doing it, keep pushing along.
I'm sure that will happen. I don't
Yeah,
have
I think
any
so.
doubt about that.
I think you're right.
Yeah, but so we met with Tampa, but first, before that, you were with the Red Sox, and you knew Darren Fenster, who recruited me to go to college at Rutgers. I'm actually wearing.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
And I remember he took a job, JA, with Boston my sophomore year. He was a really good player at Rutgers. It was like 2-time player of the year, like national player of the year finalist at Rutgers when they had some really good teams in the early 2000s. And he's the outfield coordinator now with the Red Sox. He met Justin there. He was managing it probably in the lower minors back then. But once I got traded to Tampa, he texted me immediately. It was like, when you get there, you got to talk to Justin Suas. And then I remember 2 days after spring training start, texting me, have you talked to Suas yet? And I think that, I probably already went up to you and talked to you anyway, but that's originally how I was like, all right, I guess I got to talk to this guy.
Wow. That's crazy. Fenster's a great guy, man. Talk about a great teacher, a great coach, a great friend, loves leadership and culture. And yeah, anytime I can get the recommendation from him to somebody, it's I know I'm doing something right. And so that's cool. I'm so glad. Yeah, we crossed paths and hit it off. And yeah, it's been cool even to watch your journey from a distance, and both on and off the field. It's fun to see the evolution of the OG family.
I appreciate that. And we'll get more into God, all that stuff in a little bit here, but let's start with, when people think of sports psychology, or, your official title is the head of mental performance. I don't think people can just understand what you do. I don't know if you're a little bit different than a psychologist, or I think you're more effective. Honestly, that's the whole thing. So what in your description would you say you do?
Have you ever played Uno? OG? Or
of course,
Justin?
I played
Uno. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw down my reverse card. I am very curious. So here's what I mean. Here's what I mean by this. I have given my definition about what I do. I don't know how many, so many times, but honestly, the people listening to this are going to be players. The people listening to this are going to be coaches. They're going to be fans of yours. And I would love to hear what I do from someone who has literally personally, from a player's perspective, because I think there's so much jargon and mush, and yeah. I'm curious how you would answer that question. You were with the Reds, you were with the Padres, obviously with the Rays, you played baseball, you were in college. In your opinion, what is it from what you experience? What do I do?
Yeah, let's start with JA. What do you think? What is nice. Your idea?
Oh wow, the double reverse card on. Okay,
the double reverse card.
The double reverse.
Yeah, he hit the skip. I think he threw the skip down.
Oh, we're coming back to me because I'm ready. But let's see what he thinks.
It has to be all about empowering players, helping them work through things. I read a great quote that you said that you kind of act as a mirror for people. Like the people have the questions and the answers both inside of themselves, and you kind of act as like a great listener to them, where you help them kind of, find their own way. Is that, do I have a little bit right?
I think. I mean, you think that was really good.
That was really good.
Yeah. Well, how about you, OG? How do you add to that, or what would you say?
I don't know if I could say it as well as he just said it, but in my experience, yes, that's absolutely true. You just put a little more eloquent than my Philly self might, but that was really good. Yeah. So Sua, God, that COVID year was obviously for everybody a rough year, and it was such a different year. And for me personally, with the Rays, I loved my time there, and at the same time it was really rough because I wasn't getting to play, and as a competitor that sucks. Everyone knows that. Played a tiny bit, I hit 400 on the year, but who's counting? So me and Sue would talk a lot because I was just frustrated, and it was just there was no AAA, there was no outlet to play or anything. So I would say the mirror is a great way to put that. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, basically I would just bounce it off him. Not in my head, but I know what he was doing now. I would bounce it off him and I would work it out, and he would just kind of help me along and help guide me along. So mirror would be a great way to put it. And aside from that, I said in the intro, great friend, and I really meant that. And I've said that to you before, how much I appreciate the friendship, because it's not just you're a coach or you're a psychologist or whatever it is. You really get to know all the guys there, their family, everything else outside of baseball, and you care and you have their trust. And that's a big reason why. So I think you just make guys really comfortable coming to you with anything.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think both of your answers were spot on. And I as you were talking, I wasn't fishing for compliments necessarily, but more of a what is your understanding of my role of what I do. And I think, J.A., you hit the nail on the head. My fundamental philosophy is that I am not the hero. Like I'm not. It is not. I'm not. It's the player. The player is the hero. The person, you have the journey. Anyone who's made it to the big leagues at this point, the stuff that you guys have overcome, the adversity you have encountered to get to be the 1% of the 1% to still be playing baseball at this age, at this level, wherever you are. You've overcome a lot. So my job really is to help you realize, or to pull out the tools you already have and to polish them. Whenever we spoke, it wasn't rocket science. It wasn't anything like, oh my gosh, I've never heard this before. It was literally more of I'm a reminder guy through, like Jay said, the use of questions. Hey, so many times guys will come up to me like, hey, what do you got on confidence? And I'm like, what do you got on confidence? Oh, well, this and this and this. Okay, great. Are you doing that? No. Oh, why? Oh, good question. I don't know why. Or happens all that. What do you got on focus, Sua? What do you got on focus? Oh, well, and so basically to help guys remember that you have the tools, you got it. And now to your point as well, what I don't do is I don't diagnose, I don't treat any psychological, emotional, or behavioral based mental health issues. We have licensed clinical psychologists for that. Where my domain is, I help players and staff and whoever cultivate high performance habits. It's all about process. What is your process around confidence? What's your process as you step into the box? What's your process after a good day, after a bad day, when you get to the park? What's your process around quieting the noise? I'm a big process guy. And I don't know if you noticed this, OG, as well, but when I do share things, everything goes towards behavioral science. The player, you never know that. Like, you probably have no clue the scientific underpinnings of everything that I'm nudging you towards, or everything that I'm sharing. It's not a motivational rah-rah. I don't have 5 tips to do this or that, because it's too pro baseball, pro football is it's too messy. No one has the silver bullets. And so it's like, all right, here are some questions for you to consider and work it out. Like, and I'm sorry I'm riffing so much. Here's another thing too. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, OG, I think one of the reasons I can help where some players help is I'm on the outside. And so I will allow players to literally say whatever they want freely. Because as men sometimes, and women too, we want to think out loud without having to be judged. And so I don't want OG, when you're talking to me and you say something, I don't want you to have to be careful with what you're saying. Say it. Because sometimes you might say something and be like, ooh, that didn't sound good coming out of my mouth. Like oh, okay, how would you say it? So I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to run it up the pole. I'm not going to document it. And no, it's just my role. It plays no role in your playing time and plays whatever our conversations. So I'm not a coach position. I'm not in the front office. I'm not a family member. I'm not like, as much as your family loves you. I'm not, sometimes players will say things with their family and their family's like, give them great advice, but sometimes family doesn't truly know like what's happening inside the clubhouse and what it's like. And obviously you don't love, like, we love our family more than anything, but yeah, it's a weird kind of unique sweet spot to be where I'm close enough, but not too close, and allow players to just kind of be comfortable to think it out by themselves.
No doubt. I totally forgot about that part about the trust thing. Is you're not taking it anywhere. It's you. That's it. And it's just, I knew it was between me and you listened to a lot of things and frustrations that I had to say that year specifically. And I still really appreciate that. And we're going to get back to baseball in a couple of minutes, but I'm so interested, one, by the WWE thing, but in general, do you have the same approach to all the sports that you've been involved with and the corporations or the Army? Is it all kind of the same approach, or is it different for a WWE guy, a football guy, a baseball guy?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're all humans. And at the end of the day, one of the things I've learned is that no matter what level you're at, whether it be an Olympian or a WWE wrestler or a baseball player, NFL football player, or a CEO, we're all human. And we all have that voice, that negative voice that we need to learn how to tame. We have to learn how to navigate stress. We have to learn how to build tools of resilience. And so I find all of our conversations being very common, very, very common, but every sport is different. It's kind of like the NFL quarterback makeup. The quarterbacks, they're different than the linebackers. The offensive line, they're different than the defensive line. Even in baseball, a starting pitcher is different than a relief pitcher. They're just different. Just how the mentality and the makeup of their position of what they do every day. And so, while I have to learn the nuances of their roles, the human factor and the human element is very much the same. And so, my general rule is respect the person, respect their expertise, and respect their experience, and just serve as JA said, as a mirror. Can I ask better questions so that they can find their own answers? And again, help them discover the process they currently have and to create a new process if that one isn't working for them. But yeah, it's very, very similar, but there are some unique differences depending on the person I'm working with.
Your approach is fascinating. I'm so curious, like, what helped you arrive at that? Was it more so through the schooling and education background, or was it more so picked up a long time kind of, life experience?
Oh my gosh, that is an unbelievable question. I'm so glad you asked that. It is more of a multidisciplinary approach that has grown over time. I think anyone, even baseball players, I mean, a hitter, right? I mean, OG, you've been doing this for a long time. You have had so many iterations. A guy who has a fastball that rises. You've seen a pitcher like Garrett Cole. You've seen lefties. You've seen righty. You've seen submarine pitchers. You've seen guys who throw back foot cutters or sliders. You've seen so many different iterations, and so you're like, okay, I've seen that before, and so you have to learn how to adjust and adapt to the pitcher. I think the same has held true for myself as well. There's something called Maslow's hammer. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Now, when you go through school, you develop this theoretical orientation, whether you view mental performance through a certain lens. Now, the problem with that lens is if you keep trying to, if you all you have is that lens or that tool, and I try to go solve every problem with that tool, then you're doing people a disservice because everything looks like a nail and you're using your hammer. Now, I'm a firm believer that sports psychology doesn't have the corner market on helping guys create process. Behavioral economics is great. Decision sciences is great. Positive psychology is great. Clinical psychology is great. So what some of the first principles from physics, from mathematics, like to be able to pull from all of these different domains, storytelling. There's some great storytellers out there that I try to learn from. So pulling all of these different dimensions in to help a player, that's where I really pull from. And I try to create this very unique skill stack that's unique to myself. That I can pull from all these different industries and not just learn from sports psychology, but learn from all these other industries, pull them in so I can use them to be better polished, to better help these athletes that I'm working with. But it's happened. All of this has accrued over time.
That was a great question, Jay, and that was a great answer. So I was really interested in that, but it makes sense. Yeah, you gotta evolve, right? You gotta learn, and you deal with so many different people and so many different personalities that you're right. Everything is not the same aside from position or whatever expertise. Just the personality of the person you're dealing with is so different, guy to guy or girl to girl too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's amazing, man. And we'll get back to baseball now with more about the Rays, because that's what you do now, or that's currently where you are. What you said earlier, I've played with the Reds, I've played with the Padres, I've played with the Rays. I've loved every place. They've all had their pros. Maybe some things I didn't like, and that's going to be everywhere. But the one thing, and everyone asks about the Rays, what makes them the Rays? Why are they so good with players people don't know, or less money, whatever it is? And I just always come back to the culture that is the Rays, that I think top down, starting, with Eric Neander, and just how they approach everything is obviously they have an eye for talent and all that stuff. But they're very open. Communication there is off the charts. Cashy does a great job too. And then I think you play a pretty big role in that as well. What do you think you've helped create in a culture sense at the Rays?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I would agree with you. I having had the opportunity to work with many different cultures like yourself, whether it be in Major League Baseball or pro baseball, affiliate ball or NFL, or it's neat because I get to go into different cultures, and whether it be a college football team or basketball team, just kind of see what the culture is like. And you can usually get a glimpse. You can get that feel, right? Sometimes it's hard to describe, but you'll know it when you're in it. And I mean, I don't know how to answer the question what role I play, but I do know that, I mean, any kind of culture, even our home culture, you can walk into a house and feel like the vibe of a home, the vibe of a restaurant. And I think it's a combination. It has this combinatorial effect of a lot of little things. Like a restaurant it's the smell, it's the service, it's the food, it's the chefs, it's the music, it's the ambiance, it's the lighting, it's all the combination of all those things kind of create that culture, not to mention everyone being good at what they do, and then word of mouth. I think just the Rays have hit this flywheel of people coming in and who have created this really cool culture that's, it's one of those things where it's like, can you create it on purpose from scratch? Like, that'd be very difficult. And even within the culture, we're like, how did we do this? What are we doing? And they're like, I don't know. But here's the cool thing. As you probably remember this, OG, like everyone from, you just said it starts with the top, but from the bat boys to the clubhouse managers to just the way the vibe that everyone goes around is just treating people with respect and having integrity and having a growth mindset and just being positive. I think there's a lot of positivity in this organization as well. There's a term called psychological safety. Now, for those who aren't familiar with psychological safety, this is a place, or psychological safety is a place where you feel safe to fail. Not that you want to fail, but you feel safe to fail. And it's okay if you pretty much you shoot to be creative. Hey, let's try something crazy. Let's do this. If we fail, we'll learn from it. Now we're not going to bite your head off. Let's learn from it. So I think you have a lot of people in this organization who are willing to try things out and do things. And I mean, you see players doing it as well. Players trying things and trusting and hey, let's get messy. Let's try some cool things. And it's a pretty cool thing to watch.
That's so funny you just said about the failure thing, because when I got to spring training before COVID happened, they called me in to have the little meeting, talk about stuff. And I had played third base a handful of times the year before, like in the minor leagues and stuff. And they must have saw it somewhere, and not very well, I might add, because I hadn't done it in a long time. But they must have saw it somewhere, and I'll never forget it, sitting there with Cash and Neander, and they were just like, so, what do you got to do to play some more third base? And I was like, I practice there all the time. You feel ground balls and do that all day, but the game, the speed of the game and the things like that is different. I need to go play in the game and just do it. And they were like, all right, well, we're going to put you there then. And, we don't care if you make some errors, like, that's fine. And obviously I'm like, yeah, right. Like, to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm not trying to make any errors, but they really were. They were like, go out there and just, play. And if you mess up, so what, we want you to get comfortable over there. And that's exactly what you just said.
It's interesting too. I don't know. I mean, if we have a stat on, we probably never have a stat on this, but I think Rays players per player have the most gloves, because you'll see these guys walking to the dugout with, I got my outfield glove, my second base glove, my third base glove. It's hilarious just because of just the players' willingness to get outside their comfort zone, like yourself, and hey, let me try third base. Let me go try and to look around. I've been around some of those conversations when a staff member will go up to a player and say, hey, what do you got on first base? What do you got at third base? And to see the player's face like, wait, I haven't played that position since high school. And so, all right, go try it out. And so it's funny you said that, because it's cool to see that happen.
I had a question, because baseball is this tremendous game of failure. It's almost cliche to say that, but it really is. It really holds true. Guys can have over 30 slumps and really get down on themselves and beat themselves up. But like, what is your approach to help combat the negative talk, the negative self-talk that probably occurs throughout the course of the game?
Yeah, you ask such great questions, because it's so true. Now I want to answer this question. I'm going to answer this question, but just to kind of set the stage, I'm coming to you, OG, just to set the stage. I don't know what it's like to go through a slump in the major leagues. I have no clue what it's like to go through a slump in the minor leagues, for that matter. Like at the professional level, I've never personally experienced it. OG, what is it like? Like what goes through a player's mind when you're putting on all this effort, getting in all the early work, you're studying video, you're doing everything right, but the results aren't there? What does it feel like? And then I'm gonna answer from my area where I think I come in to help after with going along with Jay's question.
There's nothing worse than that. It feels like you said you're doing everything right. When that's happening, it feels like the balls you finally hit hard and square up, line drives, someone's standing right there or whatever it is. It just feels like nonstop. You're like the ump made a bad call on you, whatever. It just feels like you can't get it going right. And in my experience, it doesn't get better until you might say this, like you just let go of it. And you just think about whatever little win you can and you move on. But that's way easier said than done. And the guys who probably stay out of those slumps do that the quickest. But you could, I mean, next thing you know, you're 0 for 15. And then you're like, all right, I gotta let it go. Or like something happens and you finally let it go. But I think that's really the only way to get through it, as hard as it is and as much as it sucks.
So true. So true. And so going along with what OG just said, JA, I understand that. And it's for me to go up to a player who's going through a slump and say, hey, just let it go. Are you kidding me? You can take let it go and go shove it. Hey, you're all right. Next at bat, you're one swing away. You're one swing away. Hey, it's okay. Oh, hey, just be positive. Okay, like that is the worst thing you can say to someone who's going through it. Like they don't want to hear that stuff. A guy will barrel a ball, hit a ball on the screws right at the shortstop. 110 exit velo off the bat, right at a guy for an out. He comes in the dugout. Everyone's like, swing it, swing it. He doesn't want to hear swing it. If he's over his life, don't tell me swing it. Like, I don't care if it was 120 exit velo, it's still an out. I'm 0 for my last 16. And so I understand that. I'm there. I see it. I witness it. I don't understand it because I've experienced it, but I understand it because of human nature. So my role is to understand the psychology of all of this. So the first thing I take into consideration is a concept called loss aversion, which essentially is losing. A loss feels 2 times worse than a win feels good. So I'll say it again. So losing feels 2 times worse than winning feels good. So that's called loss aversion. Losing $100 feels 2 times worse than finding $100 just out of nowhere. It's even like this. If you wake up and you see $10,000 in your bank account, $10,000, you're like, oh my gosh, I have $10,000 there. You didn't earn it. No one gave it to you. It just shows up. Your bank calls you and says, hey, sorry, JA, that was a mistake. That's not your money. We're going to take it back out. You knew that. You're like, of course. You're pissed. You're like, what? Why did you take? It's not your money to begin with, but that's loss aversion. So I'm aware of loss aversion. Number 2, I'm aware of attention. You give power to what you focus on. And so if a player is extremely angry, my job is to decouple or to help them we call it the flashlight, point their attention on the things they can control. Now, I have to be very delicate. I have to have surgeon-like precision with how I do this because timing is everything. I have to know when to talk, how to talk, where to talk, what it looks like, because you just got to be smart. You have to know the player and being able to help take the player and just point the player's attention to essentially help him reframe his current situation. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to eliminate the frustration. I'm not going to eliminate the doubt. I'm not going to eliminate the lack of confidence. You're not going to do that. These guys are human. But if we can just turn down the volume of negativity, if we can just turn down the volume of doubt, if we could turn up the volume on things that the player can control, just even if it's tiny, then we're making some strides. Now, another thing as well to help the player understand as well is trying to help them out with broadening their perspective, keeping things in perspective as much as we possibly can, to help them realize when things are good, they're not always going to be good. Keep things in perspective. When things are bad, they're not always going to be bad. Keep things in perspective. Now, again, it's nuanced, it's subtle, it's tiny conversations. That's why spring training is so important, because that's where we build our relationship. And ultimately, one of my favorite axioms for this is to build a relationship so strong it could bear the weight of truth. And so essentially my job is to ask these questions to help players seek truth. And I'll ask these difficult questions. If the guy is going through it, sometimes guys will just want to get it off their chest. I suck in this. I'm never going to get a hit, and I'm never going to do this. I'm terrible. I'll let them go. And then I'll repeat it back. Okay, so let me get this straight. You don't think you're ever going to get a hit. You think you're going to get released. You think it's going to affect your family. And I just go down the list. They're like, yeah. And then I look this man in the face and I ask him, okay, So what are you going to do about it? And to see them be like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, what am I going to do about it? Okay, this is what I'm going to do about it. And just that question will help them recalibrate their thoughts. And instead of focusing on what's happening to them, instead focus on what they're going to do to the situation, or in other words, what they're going to control. And again, it looks different for every player. It looks different depending on my relationship with the guy, but essentially that's what we're trying to get to.
That's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And that's applicable to all walks of life, not just sports or whatever we're talking about, athletes. And everyday people can use those kind of things in whatever they're dealing with. There's no doubt about it. And you've helped me so much in so many ways. I'm trying to think of just a few quicker examples of specific things that you've helped me with. And I do remember the flashlight exercise in spring training before COVID happened. I do remember that in 2020, as well as writing down. You had me in note form on my phone. I wrote down when you're talking about somebody saying, I suck and I'm going to get released. You had me write down all those negative things in my notes. And when I did that and I started looking, I'm like, 99% of these are absolutely ridiculous. Like they make no sense. It makes sense in your head, but then you see it down there and you're like, that's just stupid. Why am I even thinking of that? But it gives it less power, I guess, in your mind. You see it and then it helps you move on. And that was huge. And then my favorite one that I still use a lot, I mean, all the time, is the what if game. The what if helped me so much. So JA, that was basically, I was struggling. It wasn't feeling good. And I was talking to Suas and he said, I was nervous. I was anxious, and I'm not usually that way. Not in that exact sense. And I was thinking, what if I strike out? What if I make an error? Which is crazy. I never think that, especially in the outfield. That's never, ever a thought in my mind. And he said, well, if you're going to play that side of the what if game, you have to play the other side of the what if game. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, if you're thinking about what if I make an error, you have to think about what if I make a diving catch and end up on SportsCenter tonight? Or what if I hit a walk-off home run right here, or whatever it is. You can think of the negative, but then you got to think of the positive about it too. And that was something still that helps me so much anytime that little doubt creeps into my mind. And I'll use that forever. No doubt about it.
Well, what's really cool, a couple of things that you're doing that I don't know who's listening to this right now, but just your vulnerability, OG, just you sharing what you're sharing about, and it's nothing to you. Like, honestly, like, this is who you are. People who don't know you, like, this is you. And that is just so refreshing for people to hear, like, oh, wait, what? OG has had these thoughts? Oh, wait, that big leaguer has had this thought? Oh, wait a minute. This NFL player, he's had this thought. She's had this thought. I think people think that these athletes like yourself at a high level are robots and are always thinking nothing but positive thoughts and thinking great. It's like, no, it's just you saying that is refreshing for people to hear. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I want to articulate. So there's a concept in computer programming called refactoring. Now, essentially what refactoring is, it's speeding up the process. It doesn't necessarily make the process better. It just makes it faster. What's hard about my work is quantifying it. Okay, how do we know you're good, Justin? How do we know these things work and whatnot? And the reality is we still don't know. It's very, very difficult unless you talk to the players or whoever we work with. But now here's the thing. What I think I do, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're already resilient. If you're going to go 0 for 15 or 0 for 16, you are going to bounce back. You didn't need that conversation. You are going to eventually get back to being positive. You're eventually it was going to happen. You're going to do it. What I think I do is just try to help you accelerate the process. If you normally bounce back in 7 or 4 days, maybe we can get you to bounce back in 3 days. If it usually takes you 3 innings to get over it, maybe we can get you to do it in 1 inning. And so through deliberate tools, and I just want to speak one really quick to the list that you made. What's cool about the list that you made is it's so true. When we're going through negative times in our life, the negativity is so loud, and a lot of times they're just lies that we tell ourselves, just lies. The reason I have guys type it out or text it or write it so that they can look at their thoughts instead of through their thoughts. Because when you're negative, that's the lens that you view everything with, and it taints everything's negative. And so by putting it on paper or in your phone and staring at it, you can look at it instead of through it, and you can almost laugh and be like, I do not believe that. I cannot believe that was in my head. And so it's cool. Then when it bubbles back up in your mind, you can almost laugh at it and say, "Oh no, I know you're wrong." But to your point, OG, it doesn't eliminate it. It kind of just takes the emotionality, turns the volume down, so it doesn't affect you negatively as much. I think that's you said it perfect. You said it better than I did. I don't know why I just buried your own answer.
You said something earlier about relationships. I had a question. In Tampa Bay, there's this culture of change and turnover, and guys typically aren't there for a very long period of time. How long does it take you personally to develop these relationships and have them get to the point where you can get to a good place with these guys?
I think just like anybody, you click with certain people and you don't with others. I would be lying if I were to tell you that I connect with everybody all the time, and I think every relationship is different. And you can get a little bit deeper with others than not just be. And I mean, I don't. And I try to develop a relationship with everybody, but here's the reality: is sometimes even my players, like, you don't connect with certain people, but you connect with others. They might not connect with me, but they connect with their hitting coach really well. They're really close. Or you might not connect with the hitting coach, but you connect with their strength and conditioning coach really well, or the athletic trainer. All the players have certain go-to people. And so my hope is that nobody falls through the cracks, that every player has somebody they can count on, someone, even if it's a teammate. And so it doesn't even have to be me. I don't even need it to be me. I just hope that a player has someone, that no one feels alone in the clubhouse. No one feels like they're walking around and they're lonely. And so I'm just watching, I'm paying attention. And I think deep down, I really like people, humans. I love their stories. I love to hear about their families. I love to hear about their origin stories and talk about things that have nothing to do with baseball, just the human factor. And so how long does it take? I think OG and I took about a whopping 30 seconds to connect. But then we have others where it takes years. Years. I've had guys who I've been with for 3-4 years, and just now they are warming up to me. And they tell me, they're just like, yeah, I didn't know about you, this and that. And it just takes time. But my thing is never trying to force myself or a relationship, never trying to force mental skills on anyone. Just to be organic, let it flow, let it come, let it go, and just kind of play it by ear. Because the players, and correct me if I'm wrong, OG, the players can tell if you're forcing it. Like there's this term in baseball called feel. They have unbelievable feel radars, and they can tell. They have just sensitivity, and I don't know why. OG? Why is it that Major League Baseball players at your level, at the highest level, are really careful and particular about who they let in?
That's a serious question. I think most guys have a fear that whatever they say can be used against them somehow, whether that's by the team or just you're with the elite of the elite there, as you know, and it's a very ruthless business, and it's a ruthless, not locker room. It's not like guys aren't friends or anything like that, but I think it's tough to be vulnerable for a lot of people there, because you think you're this big tough guy who, I'm a pro athlete and all these things, and people just have pride. So I think it's a combination of those things. And guys they bet on themselves too. They feel like a lot of guys did this themselves, or like they put in all the work. People helped, obviously, but they put in all the work and all these things like that. So Careful. They are. They're careful about who they let in. Some guys more than others, no doubt.
It's so true, so true. And so to that point, and I feel that myself being on the other side, being able to interact with players. So to answer your question, JA, I just try to respect that. I respect that not everyone wants to connect or talk or and I might have a negative perception, unbeknownst to me. Just mental skills guy. Oh no, I don't need a mental skills guy. It's like, oh yeah. And so I get it. I get even the title could be off-putting to some people who have no clue about me, the man, Justin, the person, and let alone the title. And so, yeah, I take all these different variables into consideration. Don't force it. Let people feel safe and not push anybody, and not be pushy. And I think that's kind of what I've learned.
Yeah, you're definitely not a pushy person. I will do that. That is for sure. But I find it hard to believe that you don't connect with very many people. But I'll take your word for it and trust you. Along with I want to finish up on the Rays and talk about your podcast you do as well, real quick before JA hits you with the rapid fire and we get out of here. The Mental Minute. I love it. I think it's phenomenal. And do you want to tell what the Mental Minute is, or you want me to tell them what the Mental Minute is?
I could do it. Yeah, no problem. I
Let's hear it.
do it. So here's the thing about the Mental Minute. So one thing about pro athletes, all athletes, you don't mess with their money and you don't mess with their time. Their time. The last thing a pro athlete wants is to sit in a mental skills meeting for 45 minutes talking about the mind. Like, they get it. Okay. And so, they don't want to do it. They'd rather sit in their locker and go through Instagram or Twitter or do a crossword puzzle than to do mindfulness meditation for 20 minutes. Like, and again, these are the best in the world, like time. And so I understand that. I get it. Even though it could possibly be beneficial, no one wants to sit and be lectured to. And so when I was in the military, I don't know if you've ever heard this, OG. This is how it was developed. So I was in the military and I was a mental performance coach for soldiers. And the unit I was working with, they didn't want to have sessions with me. So I went to the commanding officer and I said, "Hey, can I meet with your squad, with your company?" And he's like, "No, no, you can't. I don't know who you are, and I don't want you, like, it's just a waste of time. We have a lot to do." And I kept asking, and he kept saying no. 45 minutes is a long time. They're busy. And I went to his office. He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Can I do it?" He goes, "Okay, I don't have time." I said, "Oh, I want to do it for 1 minute." He's like, "Wait, what?" He goes, "You want to do what?" I said, "I want to do something called a mental minute." Mind you, I made this up on the spot. I've never done one of these in my life. And he goes, "Wait, what?" I said, "Yeah, all I need is a minute." And he puts his paper down. He looks at me. He goes, "1 minute?" I said, "Yeah, that's all I'll need." He goes, "Okay, good. Like, deal. You get 1 minute, 60 seconds. I'm like, "Yeah, 60 seconds. He goes, "Great." I said, "I just need a place where they're all going to be together." He goes, "PT tomorrow, 5:30 in the morning, physical training tomorrow." I was like, "Gosh, dang it." Okay, great. Okay, so I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, or I wake up earlier, obviously. I get there at 5:30 in the morning, and all of them are standing at attention, getting ready to work out. About 100 or so soldiers. And the commanding officer stands in front of them. He says, "We have this guy here he says he's going to give you a message, a mental skills message in 60 seconds. He pulls out his clock and he goes, "You got 60 seconds, go." Boom. And in 60 seconds, I give them a message on how to be more motivated. Essentially, I'll never forget my first mental minute. I essentially go, 3 things you need to be more motivated. The first one is to focus on what you can control. Number 2 is to catch yourself winning, catch all the small wins you're getting. And number 3, strengthen your relationships with those around you. If you do those 3 things, you're going to be more motivated, you're going to have more perseverance, and you're going to be the best version of yourself. And they sit there and they stare at me, and then they started clapping. And then the captain comes up to me. He goes, "Wait, that's what you teach?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Okay, we want to learn more about this kind of stuff." And so that was the development. So I carried it along with me, And so essentially, JA, and to anyone listening, the mental minute is a 60-second mental performance tool. It's just a simple thing while they're stretching. It's not an extra meeting. It's part of what they're already doing. And sometimes it's not meant to be a motivational speech. It's a tool. Here's a specific thing to do in order to optimize performance. It might be a simple reminder on how to breathe, the mechanics on breathing. It might be a simple reminder on, hey, be positive today. It might be, hey, what's your why today? What's your purpose today? And so something short, something quick, but something consistent.
I can't believe you never told me that story. That is,
yeah, that's where it started.
My jaw was dropped. That's
phenomenal. That's where it came
I can't
from.
imagine you being out there with probably a bunch of pissed off.
Exactly. I was so
army
nervous.
people at 5:30 in the morning, and
it was hilarious.
That's so cool. I had no idea.
And that's where the podcast came. So my podcast is Increase Your Impact, and it's the longest episode is like 5 minutes, but usually I like to keep it in the 1 to 2 minute realm. I had a player tell me it's the podcast for people who hate podcasts. It's short. It's short. I do it on my phone, no editing, no music, no record, no 2 takes. I stumble, I fumble, but it's every single weekday. It's a message, and I keep it short and tight and practical and applicable. And it's for those who don't have time to listen to long podcasts.
I love that podcast so much, because who doesn't have 2 minutes while you're driving into work or whatever you're doing, and you have your little thing for the day that you can focus on, or whatever it is. I think it's so smart. And it's, one of the reasons in doing this that I didn't want the podcast to be super long, because the appeal of something short and to the point is huge. We go a little bit longer than that here, but
yeah.
I think that's just it's a great idea, and I love listening to it. And man, I can't get over that story. That's so cool. I'm so excited you told me that, and then
Thanks,
you told
bro.
us on here. That's awesome.
Yeah,
but
thanks, man.
Well, just in general, I just want to say that if I could go back to high school or college, I wish I would have put a lot more stock into everything you've talked about here today. I know it was right after my senior season in college, I read a book, Mind Gym, that put me on kind of the path of these things that we're talking about. And I think it's helped me a ton. You've helped me a ton. And if any young guys are listening out there, I absolutely would say to do some research and get into these things, because I think it would have helped me a ton back then too, to perform. So with that being said, JA, let's hit them with the rapid fire, and let's let Sua get out of here.
Absolutely. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on, by the way. I've learned so much out of this conversation. So my eyes lit up when I saw that you're a BYU guy. I'm friends with a couple people in the program there. I don't know if you know Harvey Unga or not. He might have crossed paths with you back in the day.
We've met.
Yeah. Do you still keep up with BYU football?
Not as much, honestly. I always get that question, especially in the clubhouse. Everyone has their football. I always claim BYU football, but I don't really follow them as much. But this past season, I did watch some of their games. Cool to see their success over there.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I know you're a former athlete, former baseball player there for BYU. Do you ever have any opportunities to show off the arm when you're around some of these guys? Do you still have a little gas left in the tank?
I don't know if it's gas, but I will play catch with some guys. Yeah, I'll play first base during infield, and I'll be there. I won't show anything, nothing to show off anymore. But yeah, I'll definitely still have a glove and help out where I can.
I love it. So I know last year you had the opportunity to participate in the MLB All-Star Game. What was like the most rewarding aspect of your time, around the players in the All-Star Game?
I think a couple of things. The first one is to connect and to reconnect with players who I had met along the way, particularly guys with the Red Sox. To see all of them once again, it was great to see guys who are on the Rays who are no longer on the Rays, even from the National League side, and to connect with those guys as well. But for me, it was really neat to see the current Rays players shine, not only in the game, but to see all their hard work and to see their families and to see how wonderful it was for them, in addition for the coaching staff as well. And it was pretty special to be around all these guys and to have a little fun in the dugout.
I love that. So I know that you grew up a Dodgers fan. Who were some of the players that you kind of idolized when you were growing up?
So, so the guys who I loved growing up was so Dodgers guy Raul Mondesi. I just always loved Raul Mondesi back in his heydays. Um, I Barry Bonds was always a fun one to watch, and Ken Griffey Jr. I wanted to be Ken Griffey Jr. Just tried to hit left-handed just to be just like him. But yeah, he was always someone who I those guys I loved watching as a youngster.
Absolutely. Turn the hat on backwards, go out in the backyard. I love that.
Exactly.
All right. I have one last question for you, and I always like to end with this one. So I know that you give some of the most profound advice out there, but what is the best advice that someone's ever given to you?
The best advice someone has ever given to me. I think that's a really good question. You know what? I'll never forget. So here it is. I had somebody come up and tell me. So I was a high school teacher for years. And I was a student teacher at one point, and my supervisor was watching me. And I killed the session. I killed the class session. I dominated. I thought I did great. I walked into his office to get my feedback. I was fishing for compliments at this moment because I just killed it. And he goes, "How do you think you did?" I said, "I think I did great." I said, "How do you think I did?" He goes, "I'd give it a C, maybe a D." I remember being shocked. I was like, "Wait, what do you mean a C or a D?" And he goes, "Justin, let me tell you the difference between two types of teachers." And we can even say leaders. Because there's two types of teachers. He goes, "There are mirror approach teachers. Mirror approach teachers are people who think, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? How do I look? What are the students going to think about me? What are others going to think about me?" He goes, "These are the people who think all about themselves." Then we have the magnifying glass approach teachers. These are the teachers who focus on the others. What are the students going to say? What questions am I going to ask them? How are they going to come alive? How are they going to participate? He goes, the best leaders and the best teachers are magnifying glass approach teachers. They don't think about themselves, they focus on others. He goes, "Justin, you're a mirror approach teacher. You make it all about you." He goes, "But once you learn how to be a magnifying glass approach teacher and magnifying glass approach leader, it will change your life and you will change the lives of others." I think about that advice to this day. That was back in 2004. And I think about that advice all the time. I always think, be a magnifying glass. Be a magnifying glass. It's not about me. It's about them.
Love it.
Man, that's awesome. That's when we started doing the rapid fire, I was waiting for that one. I'm like, this one's definitely going to be a good answer. So that did not
Thanks,
disappoint.
brother.
That was
Thanks, brother.
Sua, man. Thank you so much for coming on. This was so much fun. I always feel better when I talk to you. I feel like I learned and relearned things again. It's just been such a blast. And thank you so much for coming on. I hope the family's good and keep in touch. And man, thank you.
Will do. Thank you both. I'm grateful for you to have you guys have crossed paths with so many people, and to be one of the few on this podcast so far it's an honor. So great to see you, OG, and JA. So nice to meet you.